Hello everyone. Welcome to the Unit 3 of Week 3. The title of Unit 3 is Methods of Formative Assessment During Classroom Teaching. We have discussed a few methods in our last unit, which is on questioning and discussion. In this unit, we will discuss a few other methods. So, the unit outcome is at the end of this unit, you will be able to describe concept maps, exit slips, and quizzes as tools for formative assessment. Let us go back to the theory of formative assessment again. So, we have discussed this in the unit 1, and basically, the theory of formative assessment comprises of the agents in the classroom, which is instructor, peer, and student, and the cycle of teaching learning process, wherein we try to see from where the student is going, where the student is right now, and how to get there. Okay. And then we have tried to identify a few strategies for doing formative assessment, which is clarifying course outcomes, understanding of the course outcomes among instructors, students, and peers. Then the second strategy was to how do we engineer effective classroom discussion to elicit evidences of students' learning. So, in our last unit, we have seen that how can we structure our discussions. So, we took think, pair, share as an example. Then, while we were discussing questioning and discussion, we also saw that how the third strategy, which is to provide feedback, that can also be integrated while the teaching learning is going on. So, assessment is not happening at the end, while the assessment is happening along with the pedagogy. And then the strategy 4 is of peer assessment and strategy 5 is of self-assessment. So, we have seen through two methods, questioning and discussion, that how these 5 strategies can be used. In this unit, we will focus on a few other methods like concept maps, exit slips, and quizzes. So, let us move ahead to the first method for this unit, which is on concept maps. So, concept maps are sometimes also represented as a mind map. And I think that this is one of the most efficient method of doing formative assessments. And this is also a very easy to use method. Even students find it very interesting. So basically, it is a graphical representation of students' knowledge. And if we are having our students create concept maps, it can actually provide us with insights about how our students are organizing the knowledge, how they are representing that knowledge. So, whatever discussions are happening in the class, whatever topics we are discussing, whatever capacities, whatever skills are we discussing, how are students organizing all those concepts? Okay. And I'm very sure that if we are asking students, a set of students to draw concept maps, we will get different concept maps for every student, because the way every student is trying to develop a mental model of all the kinds of concepts that we are discussing will definitely be different. So, what is this concept map? So, basically, it includes certain concepts. We generally enclose it in circles or boxes. And the relationship between these concepts that are there in the circles or boxes are indicated by a connecting line. And basically, this connecting line is indicating the relationship between these two concepts. Okay. And sometimes on the connecting lines, there are certain words. There are certain words written. These words are called as linking words. Okay. And they specify the nature of the relationship between the concepts. Okay. Also, it is important to know that concept maps can be drawn at an individual level, and sometimes we can also request a group of students to draw the concept map. Sometimes we have often seen that if we are asking a student to do a concept map individually, probably at an initial level, student might struggle. But if we are trying to give it to a group of students, probably they can discuss, they can brainstorm, and then come up with a concept map together. This also shows that how a group of students are understanding a set of concepts. For example, on your screen, there is a concept map on digital systems. Okay. Now, how do we read this concept map? So, the way of reading is we will read from top to bottom and left to right. Okay. So, we will start with this particular node, which is on digital systems. So, digital systems contain logic gates. Okay. It contains many other kinds of devices, but one of the aspect is logic gates. Okay. Logic gates is composed of basic logic gates. Okay. Basic logic gates contain AND gate, basic logic gates contain NOT gate, and basic logic gates contain OR gate. Okay. I'm again going up. Logic gates is composed of other logic gates. Other logic gates contain NOR gate, other logic gates contain NAND gate, and other logic gates contain XOR gate. Also, there is a relationship between basic logic gates and other logic gates, because other logic gates are basically comprised of basic logic gates. Okay, so this is one way of representing these concepts. Okay, probably there can be another way of representing similar concepts. Probably some student can have AND gate and NOT gate. Okay, some connecting lines from AND gate and NOT gate, and say that AND gate and NOT gate makes a NAND gate. Similarly, NOT gate and OR gate makes a NOR gate. So, this kind of representation can also be there. So, you see, the nature of the concept map, the design of the concept map will definitely vary from individual student to student. Now, the question is, how do we give this concept maps exercises to our students? Okay, so it is always essential to start with a focus question. So, whenever we are asking our students to develop a concept map, you can actually give them a question. Okay, question can be of different nature, of course, based on the purpose of the assessment. So, it can be that can you map the key ideas from today's class and show how they connect? Okay. Another way can be, can you add 2 new links to yesterday's concept map? So, it is always important to understand that concept maps evolve over classes. Okay. The third can be, explain your map to a partner. Where are you unsure? The fourth can be, if the students are developing the concept maps in a group, identify a connection you think your group misunderstood. So, you can use any kind of focus question. I'm just discussing a few examples. Okay. What is the advantage of this? So, first of all, as I have discussed earlier also, that probably we can give it as to a group of students or to individual students. So, the first step is probably to begin with a list of relevant concepts and then move towards concept map. So, we have these concepts. Now, we need to understand that how these concept maps can be structured in the form of a concept map. So, basically, another thing is we have to give students the opportunity to revise these concept maps, because they basically evolve and they become more detailed and may require some sort of rethinking or reconfiguring at the student's end. So, in this slide, we have an example. The focus question was develop a concept map showing some key elements in object-oriented programming. So, this particular concept map was developed by a student after the end of the course. So, basically, the teacher was interested to understand that how individual students have structured all the concepts, all the knowledge elements that were discussed throughout the class. Now, when we are saying that concept maps can be used as a tool for formative assessment, so we know that no grading is happening. The only aspect, the only component, the only crucial element of formative assessment is of feedback. So, how do we use concept maps for providing feedback to the students? So, the first can be probably identifying the missing or weak connections. So, probably we can look for places where students haven't linked major ideas, or where the connection is labeled incorrectly or sometimes also vaguely. So, missing connections often reveal gaps in conceptual understanding. So, this can be one way of giving feedback. The second can be misplaced concepts. So, sometimes the right ideas are present but located in the wrong position in the concept map. So, this might show that students do not fully understand the hierarchy or the sequence or sometimes the cause and effect relationship between different concepts. The third can be accuracy of the relationship. So, as faculty members, probably we need to check whether the links accurately reflect the correct cause, evidence, or explanation. Incorrect relationships are an excellent opportunity. They are actually some teachable moments for us because they expose the misconceptions among the students. The fourth is depth. So, we need to understand from the concept maps of the students that if the links, if the linkages that are developed among the concepts, are they at a surface level or they at a deeper level. So, some students make surface level connections like they can probably simply group terms. So, we need to encourage them to add why or how relationships to push their thinking deeper. And how do we enable them to push and think deeper? Probably by asking a few questions like why did you link these two concepts, or is there a stronger relationship somewhere else? So, by asking these questions, we are enabling students to think more clearly. And the idea is that the feedback becomes a conversation between the faculty member and the students rather than a correction of the final product. So, probably the focus of this kind of an exercise is conversation, a constructive conversation between the faculty and the student. So, moving to the second method of formative assessment, which is of exit slips. This is again a very simple and a very efficient way of doing formative assessment. So, we expect students to fill short slips at the end of the class, basically before students are leaving. Okay. Such exit slips capture students' understanding. They might have some questions also, and also giving them an opportunity to reflect. Again, since we are not grading their responses, which means they have low stakes for the students. Okay. Um, and also they are very quick to complete because we might have some 2 to 3 questions in the exit slip, very simple questions. So, it might not take so much time to complete. Also, for faculty members also it is easy to review because there are some 2 3 quick questions, and even students responses are very short and crisp. Okay. So, exit slips basically helps us in identifying certain misconceptions. It also informs next lesson planning for faculty members. As far as students are concerned, so they encourage reflection, they encourage self-assessment, they also encourage metacognition among students. So, if we are giving a few questions related to the lecture, probably they are also able to think that what did I understand or what did I not understand, where are certain gaps. So probably student is also thinking that whatever discussion has happened, what all am I taking from this discussion. So it enables metacognition, it enables self-reflection, it enables self-monitoring. So what does exit slips has? Exit slips can have 1 to 3 questions max. Okay. And all these questions, mostly they are open-ended because of the nature of questions. Sometimes you can also use multiple choice questions. And you should also see that the focus should be on the key course outcomes, something that was discussed in that particular day on that lecture itself. It should be quick to complete, shouldn't take longer time. Then probably stakes might go high. Students will not be so encouraged to fill the exit slips. So it should take very less time. So what is the process that we are following? We are giving students a very short slip of paper. Giving a short slip of paper will basically force them to write their answers short and in a crisp manner. Ask them to respond before leaving. So you can give them some questions and you ask them to respond before leaving, and then you can collect those slips, and then you can go through the responses, and probably this will help you to inform the planning for the next lesson. Let us see a few examples of the questions that we can give as part of the exit slips. So these are again a few examples. You can have you can design some more based on the purpose of using exit slip. For example, you can ask, what was the most important concept you learned today? Or write one question you still have. Identify the most confusing part of today's topic. Explain a concept in your own words. Identify one misconception you had that has been clarified. Explain how today's topic connects to previous classes. Draw a quick diagram or concept map summarizing today's lesson. If you were explaining today's topic to a peer, what analogy or example would you use? How would you apply today's concept in a real world scenario? See, all of these questions has a component of metacognition, has a component of assessment as learning, because teacher is only facilitating the assessment while students themselves are assessing themselves about their understanding of the concept. Again, these are certain prompts, these are some exemplars. You can use any other question based on the purpose of conducting exit slip. But again, I would like to emphasize that both exit slips as well as concept maps are very easy and efficient way of doing formative assessment, and it gives us an opportunity. It does not only give feedback to students but also gives very useful feedback to us, the teachers. The third approach, the third method of assessment which we are going to discuss is of quiz. And in quiz, we are specifically discussing homework as a tool for formative assessment, because homework has been shown to be a motivating factor in student learning and also to improve the academic achievement. So what should be the structure of homework? Probably it should have number of questions and a relatively shorter time frame to complete these questions. Again, the homework should have low stakes for the students. Unlike assessment of learning or summative assessment, it cannot have high stakes. So probably it can have low stakes, but to make students motivated, probably we can allocate 1 to 2% of weightage to each homework, so that they are feeling enough motivated, they are feeling enough encouraged to do the homework. However, mostly we have observed that when we are giving homework, and we understand that in a class of 60 to 70 students where homework has around 6 to 7 questions, so grading or going through all these responses might be time consuming, and it is a additional workload for us. So how do we how do we solve this problem? So probably one workaround to this issue is only mark part of each assignment without students being notified in advance as to which particular question is going to be graded. Okay, so that is one approach. So if you have given say 6 questions, you can mark just one question randomly. Okay, and you did not tell the students a priori that this is the question which I am going to mark. Okay. However, it is important to give some marks on completeness or presentation. So, in order to increase the formative nature of this assessment, uh, a recommendation can be reserving some marks on completeness and presentation, and providing the full model answers to the students. But this approach can be slightly unfair for the students, because we are making them do 6 to 7 questions, but we are randomly selecting only one question to grade. Okay, so how do we address the issue of fairness? So to help with the perception of fairness in relation to which question is going to be marked, one suggestion can be to use a random number generator and in front of the class after the submission date, and to select the question that will be marked. Okay, so randomly we are doing it. So we are not specifically identifying as a teacher. So this cannot be, so this kind of an approach can be very fair for the students. Okay, so again, this approach, because students are actually going back from your class, again doing something which is related to the class, again homework is a very efficient way to understand that how students are gauging the concepts that are being discussed in the class. Another kind of quiz can be mock examination question. This approach basically involves the use of a question from one of the older question papers, the past question papers. But how do we use it as a tool for formative assessment? How can we provide feedback to the students? So probably we can have small groups. So students are working in smaller groups, and you also allocate some specified amount of time. And also after they have completed finding the solution of the question paper, you hand over the solution, the right solution to the students. Okay, because this question paper is coming from the past years, which means you already have the question paper and you also have the solution. So after students have solved the question paper in groups, you are also handing over the solution to them. Okay. The next step can be peer review. So each group is then given another group's solution along with the correct solution. And the groups must provide some written feedback on the errors that the groups have made. So, and they will not allocate any grade. So, no grade is given on the question, but the errors or the inaccuracies, all those aspects are highlighted. So, as far as teachers' load is concerned, this activity can be quickly prepared, as both the question paper and the full solution of the question paper are already in existence, since it is coming from the previous examination. Okay. This kind of an approach, and I am telling from my experience, there is an increased engagement, because students are engaging with the real question paper, and the knowledge that this question paper was taken from a summative examination, this knowledge itself increases the engagement and motivation of students. while they are attempting the solution. Also, there is a specific benefit of peer marking for feedback and accuracy, because asking the students to correct another group's solution, um, I think it has dual benefits. One is when the class size is large, probably when as teachers or as faculty members, if we are trying to grade, it is a time consuming process. So that is the first benefit. The second benefit is if the peers are evaluating the students' responses, probably they are also very clear about the expected response, because they are going through the solution and then correcting. Also, they are more aware about the kinds of errors their peers are making. Okay. However, it is important to understand that since we are using it for formative purpose, it is generally useful to only 2 to 3 times per semester. If we are using it, that should be sufficient, because the purpose is formative. Otherwise, it might happen that students will start preparing themselves for certain kinds of question, and the teach for test mechanism might seep in. So, to eliminate all these issues, probably it is important to have limited usage of this kind of an approach. So, to summarize, we have discussed a few methods of formative assessment, which is of questioning, discussion, exit slips, concept maps, different kinds of quizzes such as homework, mock examination paper in this unit and the last unit. But let us revisit the theory of formative assessment and try to connect it with zone of proximal development, and then see how these methods will help our students learn better. So, Vygotsky was a Russian psychologist, and he believed that learning is a social process. So, according to him, every learner has three learning zones. First, which is the innermost circle, what a learner can do independently. Okay. The outermost circle depicts what a learner cannot do even with help. And the circle which is in between what the student can do without help and what a learner cannot do even with help is zone of proximal development. We also call it as ZPD. So this is where learning happens the most. This is the space between what students can do on their own and what they can accomplish with guidance from a teacher or from a peer, or from some kind of a scaffold that a teacher provides. And when we are teaching inside this ZPD, we are basically targeting skills that are just beyond the student's abilities, but they are still reachable. So, what is the responsibility of the teacher? The responsibility of the teacher is to provide scaffold, right kind of scaffolding, uh, which will basically provide enough support to move students beyond the ZPD and go to the outermost circle, uh, which is probably too hard for the student at this stage. So, all the methods of classroom teaching that we have discussed in this unit and the last unit will provide the necessary scaffold to move students from what the students can do without help to what students cannot do even with help. So, formative assessment tells us what to teach next and how much support to provide. And when we use formative assessments intentionally, we aren't just checking students' work. Basically, we are mapping out each student's learning journey. And when we teach within the zone of proximal development, we are basically ensuring that the journey, this particular student's journey, this is leading to genuine understanding and also efficient attainment of the course outcomes and also the program outcomes and also the broader aims of education. So, with this, we have discussed a few methods of formative assessment in classroom teaching. In our next unit, we will discuss a few methods of formative assessment for lab sessions.